everybody, and welcome to Sunday Brunch. I am your host, RM, and of course, we have with us today Russ Whitfield. Russ, how are you this afternoon?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, enjoying the Indian summer. I actually watched a bit of this stream back the other day, and of course, I look over there because my window is there, and it just looks like I'm looking off at random things that nobody else can see. But that's where my window is, and that's why I always glance over when I discuss the weather because I can see the weather from here. Yeah, yeah, it's been a bit of a hectic weekend. I'm not going to lie. My stepdad's ended up in hospital, so it's been a bit shit on the personal front on that side, but on other personal matters, things are going really, really great. So I'm happy about that. But this whole hospital thing is shit.
Yeah, I'm sorry that your stepfather is going through that, and I do sympathize with you because I know how this feels. And I hope that he gets well soon and is back home and okay.
Thanks. How are
Yeah.
you?
I'm all right. I'm here. Mom is here. Mom's in the room. She knows not to shout out or say anything. I just,
Hello, Mum.
Mommy, Russ says hello. Okay, she said hi.
Sweet.
And I guess
And
she's saying,
yeah, Mum was involved in our Baywatch conversation the other day, which was kind of awesome. Your mum was right. Baywatch revisited. I loved it. I loved it. I'm all over it. I'm all over it, mate.
I think she's thinking of more like, Brideshead Revisited sort of.
Yeah.
So certainly a different twist
Hmm.
Baywatch thing, but there's probably a good theory out there that Baywatch can be applied to many, many genres indeed,
Yeah.
everybody. So
And
let
there's only one Pamela Anderson.
yes, but wouldn't you love to see her in a British murder mystery?
I'd love to see her in anything or nothing.
So that was kind of the twist that I think Mom was thinking, and rightfully so. She thinks that the glamour needs to come back.
Oh yeah.
So, and I think that that's a very profound statement. Are you all right, Mummy? Okay, you have Danish there. Enjoy. Yes. No, in front of it, Mom. No, the other way. Sorry, guys. The other way. Oh, I'll get it for you in a minute. Tom Jr. Jackson is here this morning with us. Russ says hello and welcome Sunday Brunch Live, everybody out there. And also, please visit Russ's Amazon
Oh,
storefront.
thank you.
Russ is an author of the fantastic Gladiatrix series. You don't want to miss out on this, plus many other incredible books. Yes, that's a Danish. Don't drop it on the floor. Love you. Um, and more. So do check out Russ's Gladiatrix series. Here you can see the link on the Amazon storefront right here for you to click on and go there directly. And don't forget, guys, on Monday, I do have my Sunday brunch show with Lorena back this week. So do check us out there. Dino Dinosaur is here, Russ.
But we never found out if it was Dino or Dino.
Well, maybe he.
Dino, I have to know. I have to know. We did this with Thalia Maya, and now we're doing it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Says afternoon, RM, Russ, and Tom. RM, I hope Tuesday was as stress free as possible and you stocked up on. Well, thank you so much. Yes. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Let us know the pronunciation of your name, certainly. And of course, good morning to Tom Jr. Jackson, who is here as well. Also, Tom is. Tom has his own YouTube channel. Just looking for the link. We're going to show the link. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to his channel. I just watched a review that he did of They Live, which I enjoyed very much. One of my favorite films. So you should check it out. And
Oh God, yeah. Have you heard this? They're talking about a reboot of They Live. Oh,
yeah,
get the fuck off! Stop it! Stop it! Leave
mm,
them alone.
yeah.
Leave them alone. Stop it now.
I don't think, I mean, Rowdy Piper, there never be another Rowdy Piper. That man was very unique. Just really, really rather perfect kind of guy. But I think that I just liked his just he kind of played this everyday man, but of course he's not because he's Rowdy Piper. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of, more kind of like I don't even know how to describe it,
He's
but
larger. He's larger than life, isn't he?
he is, and he has sort of like this, I don't know, Adonis like look to him because he's so fit
And
and
the blonde hair and all that
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
and the good looks. Oh, the whole package is like you're like, well, he's really good looking. That's the guy next door. What have I been missing? Like that's not he's not typical of the guy next door, but I think that on the screen he just was like a bright star in that film, Russ.
Much like you are on this podcast, Laura.
Oh, thank you, Russ. That's very kind of you. And I just think that he probably should have made many more, like had a really long career because he was so good. Um,
Yeah.
so it is interesting. That was an era where we did see wrestlers kind of start to come out from the woodwork and have more central role in movies in some cases.
And now, like, you've got The Rock, haven't you? And John Cena have obviously made it really, really big. But did you know, and you may not know this, but if you do, I'll stop you. Oh, I'll stop. But WWE have their own film studio.
No, I didn't know they had their own film studio.
Oh my God, come on, man. They make low budget to mid budget action movies.
I
12 rounds, The Marine. I think there's like, I think they're on to The Marine
12
7.
rounds, I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah, but 12 rounds isn't about wrestling. It's all,
Yeah.
basically they just cast their wrestling stars as action heroes because they can do all the stunts and they can do all the things and they're all built like, brick out houses and all the rest of it.
Mhm,
So yeah, there's some quality stuff there. Um, what's the one that they did?
mhm.
It's a really good one. They did a really good one with Steve Austin. Vinnie Jones was in it. And it was kind of like The Running Man.
Yeah.
Okay, what's it called? Oh, and they made a sequel, and the sequel was awful, WWE. But this first one was great, and he was like, they were prisoners, and
Mhm.
they were all taken to this island where they were going to get hunted. It was like a manhunt movie. But the conceit was, and I loved it, and I'm going to steal it because I thought it was such a brilliant idea. The main villain, the main baddie, he had like it was all on the internet. So the idea was that they were able to fund it because it was on the dark web and people were paying fortunes to log in and bet on who was going to live and who was going to die. And I just cannot remember the name of the film now.
Well, maybe somebody in the chat
Oh,
knows
here,
it.
I'll Google it. I'll Google it. So we got Steve
And hello,
Austin.
Brogu says, "Good morning, RM, and good morning, Russ." Brogu, we hope you are well. So good to see you, Brogu.
It was called
Um,
The Condemned.
the Condemned.
Yeah,
The
it's awesome. It's
Condemned.
absolutely awesome. It's just Steve Austin, and it's violent. It's really violent, and there's quite a horrific scene in there actually, and they spoke about it on the director's commentary where it sort of went from like sort of schlocky action to hang on a minute, it was a bit of non-consensual stuff that was going on, and Vinnie Jones was like, that was a tough scene. Like, I didn't really know what to do, and I spoke about it in depth. And he was sort of questioning, did we really need it in there? And he's like, yeah, it's the sort of thing my character would do, but at the same time, but it is a quality movie.
That's interesting. And I guess why not? Why not use that talent? I'm really happy to hear that actually. You kind of made my morning, Russ, to know that the talent is they showcase their talent and they're looking at other ways to kind of really honestly support the wrestlers
Mm.
because it's like maybe even if you're not, let's say, the number one wrestler in the world, you can still go ahead and make it a fantastic action film. I really like that premise. I think they're kind of thinking a little bit further down the line and some of these wrestlers futures. I really like it. I
Well, I
got it
gotta say, I mean, I don't know anything about wrestling, and I've never really, I never got into it. My friends were all into it. It wasn't really my sort of thing. I love boxing. That was a
Mhm.
brilliant fight last night as well. Two British guys fighting for the world title. Wow, what a fight that was! Um, what was I going to say? Yeah, but Steve Austin. So Steve Austin's has become the sort of, or certainly had a period in the 2000s, if you like, where he was like, the straight to video king. Like you could get all these films with him in
Stone
it.
Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, correct. And he always plays this sort of like big lumbering nice guy that has like a dark past, but he seems like a genuinely nice character, and he's got that southern accent that I love so much. And um they always play him up to be the same guy basically, and he gets angry, and of course he's huge and he can throw people around and all of that stuff. But like he'll be a street fighter that's he has to go back to street fighting to help somebody's sick
Yeah.
daughter,
Yeah.
right? But you think, oh, well, he's Steve Austin, he's a bit, he's a one trick pony. But you see him in the Expendables, the very first Expendables, and because he's so huge, he just exudes menace in that film. Like he was like an evil bad guy. And I thought, it's not like he's got range, like he's not, he's not going to be in the next Scorsese film, leading it, or anything like that. But the man can act. And I think, so often we talk about people like Van Damme or Stallone or whoever these, whichever, or Steve Austin in this case, and they, oh no, they can't really act. Well, actually, they can. No, they're not winning acting awards or anything like that. But I was really impressed with Steve Austin. I think he's great, and it sort of harkens back to the Roddy Piper thing, as you were saying. Anyway,
Yeah.
we should say hello because there's so many people here. So,
We're talking about action films and wrestling. This is a great way to start off the stream this morning.
mhm.
And Broga says, I love this time of year. I live in Houston. The temperature starts to cool down. It's wonderful. Broga, we're so glad. And you're
I've been to
lucky.
Houston, Grogu. I've been to your hometown.
You're lucky to live in Houston. I like Houston a lot. To be honest with you, I think it's a beautiful place.
So
We
every
also
time I hear the word Houston, I just keep thinking Jonathan, Jonathan, Jonathan from what's it called? The Rollerball.
I always think of like space and like command center, Houston,
Hmm.
Houston. This is so and so
Hmm.
from the space station over, and they're like, "This is Houston. Go ahead." Like I always think of astronauts and stuff. Keely Chow says, "Hey everybody, good morning." Well, hey Keely Chow, to you, Roll Tide. I hope your teams did
Oh,
well yesterday.
get this! I'm actually going to Alabama in a couple of weeks.
Oh
We're taking
my!
a trip down. Yeah, because there's like a guy I met on YouTube. He sort of friended me on Facebook 1,000 years ago when the Gladiatrix books were coming out, and he's like a fan of those books and stuff like that. His name's Jason, world's best looking guy. He's in a wheelchair. But he is like the most upbeat, and he's so handsome. Oh my god, this guy is to die for. Anyway, I was like, I'm going to Tennessee, and he said, that's not far from me actually. Yeah, so he lives in a place called Muscle Shoals, which I thought was hilarious because I've never heard of a place called Muscle Shoals before. But he's a muscular guy because he weight trains all the time. But yeah, no. So I'm gonna take a trip down there to see him, and he said, well, don't you can come to this town to see me. He said, would you want to stay in the town across the bridge? The name of which I forget, but apparently that's a much more happening town, so that's where we're going to go. So keep your eye out, Keely Chow. I'm hitting Alabama, Muscle Shoals. Be there or be square.
Russ is doing an American tour here. Russ, you're doing a U.S. tour.
Going to Graceland.
Yes.
Like
I love
it's literally like life achievement unlocked. It's another one on the bucket list, and I'm gonna do it. I'm weeks away. I'm weeks away from Graceland.
I love it. I'm so excited. It's giving us all sorts of writing ideas too. This has been such an inspiration, Russ. Your trip coming out here. It just really has been something that honestly it's just fun to talk about and I'm excited for you to be coming out here and it's gonna be great. So guys, hit up Russ if you're in that area. Russ, yeah. Keely Chow. Keely Chow, Roll Tide. I hope your team did well yesterday, or maybe they're playing today or tomorrow. But regardless, hope you are well, Keely Chow. Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington is here, Russ.
All right, gal.
How are you, Gary? Hope you are well this morning. Um, and Joey, hey, Joey Johnson says, I'm sure it's a relief. I live in PA. It's gorgeous this time of year. It's my favorite. There's nothing quite like autumn in the 13 colonies. And that is the truth, guys.
Oh yeah, I'm a bit of a fan of Philadelphia. I really fell in love with Philadelphia. Like if I had I've had some choices of where to live in the States, Philly would be on there. Like yeah, I just really loved it. I mean, I suppose it's not all like that, but in the city center, it was the weirdest place because it's like it's half English and half American.
Yeah.
It's literally like a metaphor for the rebellion. All right, the revolution. In that most of the lower houses and pubs and things like that, they're all English. They're all old English style Georgian things, but then they've got these like American high rises sort of built up on top of them. It was an incredible place. I loved it.
I'm glad you liked it, and certainly, it sounds like it's ice cream time out there. I was that the ice cream truck, Russ?
What I didn't see the ice cream truck, and
I
oh,
thought I
that's
heard
I
it.
hear. I don't know. I didn't hear it. I
I
didn't
thought I
hear it.
heard an ice cream truck. Wishful thinking, guys. Um, and also, and yeah, thank you, Joey. Yeah, we started a little late today. Thank you for overlooking that.
It's my fault because I was late coming back from the hospital. Traffic was absolutely shit, and I don't want to talk about it because I'll start getting angry because I don't often lose my temper. I'm a very placid man, but that was beyond the pale. 45 minutes at the hospital, but I was out for 3 hours. So the other time was just spent sitting in traffic both ways, and I was not best pleased.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Traffic is awful. And also check out Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington's channel. He does have a channel here on YouTube. Check it out, guys. Tom Jr. Jackson says that there are places in Vermont that's stopping people from leaf peeping. Obviously, the leaves changing are a huge thing out here in the Northeast. Honestly, it's beautiful. It is a big thing everywhere, but it is especially, like they're known for it here. Darth Plato's here, Russ.
Oh, hey, man.
Good to see you. Yes, leaf peeping is essentially just people who are, yeah, that's the ice cream truck, Russ. It's out
Oh,
there.
yeah, I can hear it now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm almost tempted to run out and grab something, but I can't. It would be a much farther trip to get.
I literally can. And I could sit here like, giving it some.
And Joey Johnson, yes.
MJ, go and get me an ice cream.
Quick, tell you all you have to do is yell out the window and say, "Wait, we're coming down," and then they'll wait, and that's it's wonderful. Irene says, "Good morning, lovely art." Thank you, Irene and Curtis.
Oh well, there now. Here's a story. Irene is my new late night bedtime text partner. I wake up, we start texting. I'm getting texts at all times. We've started our little chat thing. I'm getting food porn. It's absolutely fantastic. However, if Sam had been a boy, I was angling hard to call him Curtis.
How funny.
But my ex wouldn't hear of it. Then I went for Kirk because I thought, how awesome would my life be? And how awesome would anybody's life be if their name was Kirk in the era of mobile phones where you can just pick it up and go, Kirk here. And just like every time you answered the phone, it would be in Star Trek, Kirk here. Fuck it. I would, but she wouldn't have it. So it's Curtis or Kurt, because I wanted Kurt Russell Whitfield. That's what I thought would be a cool name. But yeah. So hello, Irene.
Hello, Irene. Good to see you as always. Bonzo Kilborn is here.
Bonzo.
Says,
oh, thanks, man. Yeah, no, he's fucked. He's old. He's 83. He's got advanced Parkinson's, and it's not a story for the podcast. It was just horrible. I had to go pick him up and take him to the hospital. It wasn't great, and he's not getting better, but he will be out of hospital, I think, Tuesday, Wednesday, or something like that. But thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Aw. And we also have, who else is here? Joe Tyson is here.
Big Joe. Hey, man. Good to see you.
Hope you are well, Joe Tyson. Good to see you as always. Thank you for being here this morning. And who else is here? Did we get everybody? WA is here. Hi, WA, with the kitty. Hi. Hi, little kitty. Good morning, Art and Russ. I'm excited to listen to today's chat. I'm so glad you're here.
I know who that is. That's Wendy. And
hi.
And I like Wendy.
Hi. Such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Hey, honey. Such a pleasure to see you here this morning.
I'm going red. I'm literally going wet red. Oh my God.
I love it. I love it. Welcome to Sunday Brunch. So good to see you here this morning.
Hey, Wendy. So thank you for coming up, babe. I can't believe you actually did it because I was texting her just literally before the stream. I was saying, "Oh, hey, look here, you can watch it live if you come in. Like, I'll say hello and all that." And I didn't think she was going to do it. Like, I was making a joke. But yeah, she's a sweetheart. I'm quite taken.
Well, welcome to Sunday Brunch. I hope you have your coffee or tea or whatever your beverage you like, and sit back and relax. Enjoy the conversation. We also have Chef Nation here. Says, "Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning."
Oh my God, it's the best avatar. I love the avatar. It's the greatest avatar. And I said last week, right, Chef? It's fucking brilliant. My daughter sent me a meme of that Trump mugshot, and it's kind of like just colored slightly red, and I know I said this before last week, but every time I think of it, it kills me. It says, "What my pizza sees from the microwave at 3 a.m. in the morning." It's just Trump. It's fucking brilliant. It's the greatest pizza. I can't believe Wendy pitched up. That's so cool. Excuse me.
Welcome, Chef Nation and Gasman Roy. Gasman Roy says, "Afternoon, everybody." Hello. Gasman Roy such a pleasure to see you this morning, of course.
Excuse me.
And Russ will be right back. He'll be right back. He does a little cough there. We also have Darth Plato. Darth Plato, I don't remember saying hi to you this morning, but good morning to you, Darth Plato. Darth Plato says They Live is a great documentary. I absolutely believe that to be true. We also have, where is he? Norwegian Kryptonian who stopped by. Oh my gosh, Norwegian Kryptonian is going to see Roger Waters today. And I think it's very funny because what we're going to be talking about has music from Pink Floyd in it, Russ, which you and I have been talking about for a week or two, about a show that we absolutely love. 70s inspired, I'd say, kind of like a show right off of John Wick. Um,
Mhm.
and in it has some of the best 70s music. Norwegian Kryptonian, you enjoy Roger Waters today. Wow.
Dude, I did not know you were in London. You should have hit me up, man. Like literally last night we were watching boxing. You could have come through and watched the boxing, crashed in the spare room, and gone off to the thing today. Next time, dude. Just hit me up. Get hold of RM or whatever, or get hold of me via my website, and I'll give you my number. And if you're ever in London again, um, you know, please come through. It'd be great to meet up for a couple of lagers, shoot the shit.
Absolutely. That would be great. So make sure, Norwegian Kryptonian, enjoy the show. Let us know how it was. And also do that. So good to see you. Um, Also, good morning to Renz Tolentino, an incredibly talented artist. Renz, such a pleasure to see you. Says, good morning, everyone. Guys, please do check out Renz Tolentino's Instagram account. He is so talented. Here's some of his artwork you can
Mm.
see in his avatar right there. It's all original artwork by Renz. He is so incredibly talented. So enjoy seeing you here this morning. We also have Stubble. Stubble McShave is here.
Hey, Stubble.
How are you, Stubble? I hope you are well.
I saw your Wheel of Time thing. It actually popped up on my feed, which is good. So the algorithm is now picking you back up, Rita. So it's good to know because I never see my not this my show, your show, but with me on it. I
Yeah.
never see that. I never see your ones with Lorena, but definitely I saw Stubble up there.
Well, Wheel Time might be hot right now since the series just ended. And guys, you can
Oh,
check
maybe.
out Stubbles and my review of the Wheel of Time if you are interested in seeing and learning more about it. Certainly, one of the things I had said about the show was that not only had I enjoyed it immensely, but it was very different. Season 2 was very different from season 1. And I'm actually more fascinated by the men in the story because both men and women, like they can conjure up magic. And the men, like, they're really important to the show. So it's like they're kind of like these the women kind of like have somewhat of a more defined structure in what's going on, but the men, it's like they're kind of like they have this freeness to them where it's fascinating to me. And they have to kind of like find guys who can use this power, and it's really interesting. I kind of am fascinated by it a little bit. So
Is it better than the first season, RM?
yes, much
Yeah,
better.
that's
Much
good.
better.
That's really, really good. I'm glad, and I'm especially glad for Stubble because, like, I know he was critical, or some certainly a little bit critical of the first season. So I hope it's better, man. Because there's nothing worse, is there? There's nothing worse than you waiting all this time to get the thing that you've always wanted to see in live action. You turn up, and it's. I tell you what, I was disappointed with when I was growing up. I used to love the Sword of Shannara books, or Shannara, apparently, as it's supposed to be pronounced. And I loved those books. And then that sort of show came out, and they just basically looked like they were sort of like cosplaying from some Renaissance fair, and they were all American, and it was just a bit pants. And I really wanted it to be good, and it just wasn't. But the theme tune was really good.
Interesting. Um, so
She says in a way that says it's completely not interesting. No, it wasn't interesting at all. But I
well,
like the
it
books, and
is interesting.
I
But
liked the books, and I was upset with the show. All right, the show was crap, but the books were awesome.
okay, well, I'm just saying that yeah, thank you for sharing that. And Stubble, of course, Stubble and I will continue to do other projects on the channel. Stubble, it's always a pleasure to see you here in the morning. We also have JH Edits. Hi, JH Edits. Says,
Oh,
what's
hey,
up,
man.
friends? How are you, JH Edits? I hope you are well this morning. Good to see you. Yeah, the temperature, it's now fall, I guess. I don't really like saying that. I don't like to say the F word. And that's okay. Uh, and Gary, we are going to talk about this today. That's why we are here. We certainly do have a lot to say about this show, for certain. And Darkwing Duck, hello, Darkwing Duck. GM, are we just getting started or am I late? We've been here for a little while, about almost 30 minutes.
Oh,
Good
we
to
were
see
just killing
you.
time till you got here, Darkwing. Don't worry about it, man. We're just warming up.
Yeah, I think you are kind of right on time, Darkwing Duck. Um, We also have Wex Wuther says, RM, thanks for lighting up the morning. Will you be watching Loki? Yeah, I watched the first episode. It was interesting. I need to see more episodes to see how this season is going to shape up. It certainly was action packed and full of different things to follow. It had a lot in it. Loki has a lot in it. I don't know how they're doing that show. It must take a long time to film it because there is so much in that show. So I'm hoping it will do well. It certainly isn't horrible. I enjoyed the first season up to a point, so I'm hoping that the second season will be enjoyable as well. So I am kind of watching it. They had the first episode come out. Russ, have you seen the first episode of Loki?
No,
Okay.
it's not my wheelhouse. I'm afraid. I'm over Marvel. I'm done with it. I'm just not. I don't. What's the point? Like, I'm not interested in Marvel or what they're doing, and anything that they've got coming out doesn't really. Not even Blade. I don't know, man. And I love Blade. Well, I love Wesley Snipes anyway. But like this, even that, like I thought, oh, okay, they're casting a new guy, which is a mistake because Wesley's still young enough to do it. But all right, we'll go with this bloke. And now we find out that it's in its 17th or 18th rewrite, and it's not going well. And I can't muster up the enthusiasm to get excited for Marvel as once I did. But I did want to address something I saw in the chat. And Darth Plato said, "Holy shit, Russ is tall." Actually, I'm not. I'm quite short, Darth Plato. I'm 5'9", so I'm not tall at all. I'm just below average, I would say. So I think it was the internet making me look bigger than I actually am.
I wouldn't call you short though, so I don't know whether you deserve the short title.
Below average, it's like it's my life's work. Like, "Hey, it's Russ Whitfield, below average." Yeah, so below average height.
No, 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 no. I think in the United States, 5'10" is average height. So you're like right on the cusp of average height. So you're not short. Like you're not. So
Thank you. I didn't have anything to do with it. I just ended up this way.
well, you know something. Oh, okay. What's this? Yeah. Subble says almost done with Robbie Robertson's autobiography testimony. I was surprised that the band considered George Lucas for the last waltz. He had just directed American Graffiti. They went with Scorsese. Hmm. Okay. All right. That is very
Yeah,
interesting.
I was reading. Well, I say I'm reading. I found this book on YouTube. It's called The Secret History of Star Wars. It's an audio book, and it's about 10 hours long. And I sometimes when I'm haven't got anything else to listen, it's not my go-to, but I've been listening to it for like about 3 years now. I just put it on every now and again, and it's kind of interesting listening to George anecdotes from George Lucas from 1973, from 1974, from 1975, before Star Wars and all that kind of thing, and all the things that they were trying to do. And when they opened up that, they all moved into this like commune place in San Francisco and all that kind of stuff. But George Lucas himself, if you can ascertain from these sort of quotes and his thoughts as a young filmmaker at the time, this wasn't kind of like everyone has this idea that Star Wars was his life's goal and he was just going to go on, mate. And it really wasn't. It really, really, truly wasn't. I mean, he couldn't not do it once it became the behemoth it became. But like any other filmmaker, he wanted to kind of do other things, and he had all these plans to do this. Now he was going to. I think he was involved with Apocalypse Now, and at one stage was in the frame to direct it. you know, because they were all mates, weren't they? All of those, yeah, what are they called? The skinny kids with beards was the sort of moniker for them. But yeah.
Yeah, and Wex Ruther, hi Wex Ruther, says, Russ, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. And Irene says,
Thank you, Wex.
Irene guessed it. She says, every time RM looks up, I wonder what sort of shenanigans mommy's getting into. Right now, she's resting after eating her breakfast and brunch that I made for her, and she's fine. So yes, I am monitoring what she's doing. She's right. She's literally right there.
Hmm.
So I keep looking at her just to make sure that nothing's going on, mom.
Hmm.
And but she just ate and she feels great. Like I can tell because she's taking a nap, a little nap, a little rest after her satisfying breakfast. So and slash, yeah, it's really more of a brunch. But so you guys, yes, Irene, you get the star, you get the gold star for today's observation. But you know something, Russ? It has been really interesting. I'm glad that supposedly entertainment is going to be changing now. There's a lot of different things that are happening. This strike changed a lot of the way that studios and streaming services work with creators, where they're kind of going with contractors, or there's like this desire to work with contractors now, not so much with unionized individuals, which I find very interesting, and I can understand why in some cases. But you and I have really been watching this incredible show called The Continental, inspired by John Wick. It's a precursor show to John Wick. And it's set in a number of different places, London and New York, let's say 1970s, dirty, gritty New York, at least, which is one of my favorite eras of New York. A long gone time, but certainly something that mystifies me. And I love movies that are made during that time or are set. In this particular case, it's set during that time. And they had it's not sort of like a series with a whole bunch of episodes. They've got three long episodes, like they're pretty long episodes. There's no fillers in these episodes. It's a very structured, very organized, very well thought out, well written episodes that have so much in them, that have action, they have intrigue, they have kind of like, street code, if you will. It has all those fun nuances of New York in the 1970s, during a time when New York was in a huge economic crisis, and it was run down, and certainly violence was rampant, and it's kind of like the Warriors era of New York, if you will, where the gangs outnumber the cops at some point. Think of the Joker, think of the Warriors, think of Cruising. Well, actually, Cruising's the 80s, but all of that there.
Death Wish, The Exterminator.
Yes, all of that good stuff from the 1970s New York, where it's just been an absolute delight to see this series. Russ, I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, John Wick is spectacular. People are growing a little tired of the bulletproof suits and different things of that nature. This doesn't have anything like that. This is sort of like old school, OG gangster kind of, how do you survive in New York? And it really feels that way because you're encountering all these different groups, these different nuances, these different levels of crime, but also people who are just trying to survive, Russ. It's not even just about crime necessarily. There's this special code that the Continental has set, a special code of what it means to survive in this environment. People are struggling, and it is very interesting that they've really created this complex society, if you will, because it's not just about who's winning or losing. There are certain demands that people are making that are sort of like the kinds of demands that make life worth living. It's like a very odd approach to writing a story about people who don't necessarily want money as payment, don't necessarily want the same things that it appears that everybody else wants. And it's for the most part a secret. I think I think it's they did a fascinating job with this, Russ, and certainly it has so many layers. It has so many different characters. It has so many different stories and experiences. They even talk about Vietnam in this, Russ. You know, I can't get over how diverse and how multi-layered the script for the show is. It's phenomenal, Russ. What do you think?
Yeah, I was. I'm surprised by the lack of coverage in certain corners of the internet. This show is not receiving. It ticks every single box in that it's similar to John Wick in that it takes place in the same world, but the action is very, very different. Even the construction of the action sequences. The first sequence with his brother on the stairwell, that was really, really John Wick, and it was almost like I was thinking, oh, well, maybe this is the guy that taught John Wick because his movements and the way he was doing things are very, very, very similar. But it was complete red herring, like he's nothing to do with anything. Um, and I just liked the way that they expanded that universe, but in a completely different way to what it was just not what I expected on any level of, it ended up being a heist show, essentially. Um, and I can't praise it enough. I just can't praise it enough. It's a 10 out of 10. It just delivered everything. The ending, what a shock! Like it was a complete shock. Like I couldn't believe I didn't see it coming. I didn't. I just
And we're
it
not going
was
to spoil the ending for everybody. We're not
no, no,
going to
no,
do.
absolutely not. No, but it was like the fucking brass balls on these writers. Like they went there with so many things. And as a writer myself, oh God, I hate saying that. But when you're trying to sort of get inside their heads and what they're thinking. And I remember, I don't know if we spoke about this last week, Aaron, but I know I certainly spoke to you about it, about, the sort of, it almost seems like a show that could be set up for all sorts of, identity politics, messaging, and all those kinds of things. And it just isn't any in there, apart from one bit where Lou, the sort of African American badass Pam Grier character, is having an argument, and she's arguing with the leader of the Chinese, the Asian gangs, and she starts calling him, yeah, oh, yeah, you people came over here and all this kind of thing, and they absolutely pull the rug out. And the Chinese guy goes, "What, you people?" And like he can't believe that she said it. And at no point do they play to that. They don't play to that band at all. The show's diverse as all hell, but it's not an issue. Nobody cares. It's not about that. It's about this heist that they want to perform. Um, I really thought that the supporting cast were excellent. With Lou especially been a standout. The twins there, how cool and weird were they? I
Yeah.
mean, it was just they were just out of all of the things that were very, very John Wick. Like they were the most. They could have been in John Wick proper. They seem like the most direct transplants. But the rest of this show, no, it didn't. It just wasn't. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but it was awesome. And I could watch an 80s version of this. I really, really could. Like I'm excited to see it in the same way that I'm not excited to see another John Wick movie. I think that's played, that's done, it's finished. I'm John Wick. We all know like he's dead, and that's great. And I really hope they don't bring him back. I really hope they don't bring him back. That would be awful. Um, I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
a mistake to bring back John Wick. That would be a complete disaster, I think.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I'm too excited for Ballerina.
Hmm.
I might be prejudging it a little bit, but I don't know. It depends. Well, now you see, I say that, but if Ballerina is handled in the same way as the Continental is handled, in that it takes place in the same universe, but it's an utterly different show or film, sorry, that it's got really nothing to do with John Wick, and it isn't the same style as John Wick, and it's not the same direction as John, because this wasn't, and this was a 70s heist mini series, mini series like from the 80s, wasn't it, or the late 70s? I remember that we used to get that V and The Day After Tomorrow and all those mini series. This is like a mini series, and it was sumptuously done, and the attention to detail was awesome. I mean, I wasn't in New York in the 70s, but every single movie I've seen of New York in the 70s, like this is like it was a pastiche of Death Wish, Taxi Driver, Exterminator. Like they absolutely knew what they were doing. I thought that they over relied on needle drops in the first episode, and I did feel with the first episode that it was a bit all over the place and there was a lot going on, and I wasn't sure that this show was going to land, but it was good enough. It was good enough to think, no, actually, I'm going to watch the second one. And the second one was, that's it. I mean, I'm all in. I am all in on this show. And with the context of the second and third episodes, the first one, it's not that it makes much more sense, but you know, it just fits. It did fit. But when you're looking at it in its isolation, it doesn't kind of fit. And I could have done with it being longer. I would have taken 6 episodes of this. You know, what happened to the guy that was helping him in the first episode that always double crossed everyone? He kind of did he get killed or did he disappear? I can't remember. There was so much going on, but it kept me absolutely hooked. And I like how they didn't bother too much with exposition. You kind of knew enough about, you know, when he goes to the Bowery, and you, because we all know who the Bowery King is, and we know that the Bowery King runs the homeless people and all that stuff. So when he meets the sort of predecessor to the Bowery King, they don't spend too long setting up that this person's in charge of all the homeless people and all that kind of thing, because we kind of know. So it does sort of it does a prequel in the right way, where it assumes certain knowledge, but it explains enough that if you have never seen John Wick, you kind of know what's going on. But if you have seen John Wick, it's all so much richer. But there weren't many member berries, were there? There weren't many, that's kind of John Wickish. They didn't play to that at all. It was, like I said, doing its own thing.
Yeah, I'm glad that there weren't very many member berries, and it had to feel like it was a different era. And I'm glad that it was. I think that it separates itself just enough so that it has we're familiar with the idea of it, but it doesn't feel like the same story at all. It doesn't feel as if that we are seeing the same characters either. This is a completely different situation that we're experiencing, and certainly, I just love this. You know, one of the main characters here, who is Winston Scott, I believe, played by this actor whose name is what is this man's name? Colin Woodell, who I think does such a great job here. And one of the things that I really liked about the character, and I think you and I spoke about this. I can't remember if we spoke about it here on yeah, maybe we did talk about it last week. But what I liked was that he kind of had left his life behind in, from the States, let's say, and he's over in London kind of living up the good life, in these sort of, he stylized himself as this sort of posh person, maybe like a proper gentleman of the 1970s. And, he's kind of stepped away from all whatever else is going on in New York, which is kind of depressed. New York's a depressed state. It doesn't look the way it should. And, the economy is bad. And, I kind of think that he feels that that vibe was not him. He wanted to go to London, which I don't really know what London was like in the 1970s. Russ, was it in a depressed state? What did it look like?
Oh god, yeah, it was a shit show. It was that
Okay.
we had loads of strikes and things. We had a really famous rubbish. The bin men went on strike, and everyone was going on strike in the 70s. There was a real war between the unions and the government. And I was very young, but I do remember the rubbish has been piled up in the streets and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it was a grim time. And then before, I don't know if it was during my lifetime, but I don't remember it. But certainly here in this country, we had like a 3-day work week, and that everyone thought that would be awesome. But of course, it didn't do anything for the economy, and people were poor. It wasn't a great time.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting, for whatever reason he's in London, and he really feels very separate and far away from anything that's going on in the United States. So when he's kind of like summoned back, and let's just say summoned is the word I'm going to use, summoned. It wasn't sort of, hey, can you come back to the US? We need your help. Thanks. Bye. No, it wasn't that kind of a situation. He's really taken back by this, and this is not what he asked for. And I like his attitude about it. He's handling the whole thing like a proper gentleman, which he feels that he is. And I think that he maybe does have this feeling that he's a little bit, I'm not going to say better, but that he's left behind a lot of the nuances of what he knows happens in New York. I mean, do you think that's true, Russ?
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. What this is one of the choices. If I was going to nitpick and make criticisms of the Continental, well, Winston's English, right? And this guy's American. And I kind of thought, well, when he's in London, they're obviously showing him in London because his brother's American. So they're both brought up in New York. Okay, I get that. But he must now have lost his accent and he's become like a proper English guy, because Winston in John Wick is obviously, you know, Ian McShane, and he's English, or British at least. But this guy, no, he still had the accent and the American accent, and I just thought, well, that's really weird. Like, why wouldn't you just cast an English actor to do that? That
Well,
was like, it was just like an odd choice, because we kind of know that Winston's English, but in this he's not, and I didn't understand what they were, especially setting it all up in London. Because, well, that's great. That's why Winston sounds like Winston, because he spent all this time in England, and yet he
exactly.
doesn't. So I
And
don't know what that was.
I think, to be honest with you, and it's fine. Like, I don't begrudge anyone for having a particular accent. If you want to speak with another accent, you go right ahead. I have no begrudge on a person, but he felt the need that he had to kind of change something about himself, let's say, or become something different from what his family was in the US. And I think
Yeah,
that's what it might
it
be.
was just a weird choice, though, isn't it? It's like, we know what he is in the future. We know that he's this like upper class English gent who wears ascots. Like, we get that, and they make a joke about the ascot all the time in this show. It's like a running gag with him and his ascot. So it was just a strange choice, and
Mhm.
I don't know why they just. I can't bend my head around when he's in London, yet he sounds like this, and we know he's going to end up sounding like that. But that's like, it's such a minor point. It didn't detract from the enjoyment of the show at all. The show was fantastic.
It didn't detract from it, but I also think that he wanted to upscale his look and detach himself from back home for a particular reason. And maybe we won't find out the reason, but I do think it's very interesting that people do actually do this. This is not something that's new. People do, go across the miles, whether it's from the United States to England or England to the United States, um, regardless of direction, you know, it does mean that it's almost as if you could get a fresh start. Not today, not in 2023, but
Mhm.
certainly in 1970, you could go over and no one would know who you were if you
Mm,
weren't in society or anything like that. If you were not a socialite, no one would know who you were. So you could almost kind of start over, reinvent yourself into, sort of this ideal version of yourself that you want to be. So I think that he was pretty much settled in that. I think he was quite happy where he was, and there was no reason for him to move. Or And I do love that they showed that he had become somebody different than perhaps if he had stayed in New York, he might not have turned out that way.
mhm,
Or sort of like been able to even reach his potential, because let's say the shadow of his family, let's put, if I could put it that way,
mm.
sometimes the shadow of your family can, you can't outrun that shadow. Everybody knows who he is as soon as he gets here, right, Russ?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when he was overseas, there wasn't necessarily that issue. And I
Mm,
like that they did that. It must have been a great time to kind of be able to go someplace and disappear and not have everybody know who you are and look you up on the internet. If you're not in the who's who's book somewhere in a library, nobody knew who you were, then there was no way to find out really much about you. So I really do like that anonymity feeling that they had. And it does add to the mystery of this story, which is quite complex. As you and I both said, Russ, there are so many layers of the underworld, if you will, if you want to call it an underworld. I guess
mm.
it is kind of an underworld, but it's a complex underworld that has very specific rules in some cases. Some people have moralistic values. Other people are just using whatever they can to survive. We're seeing a lot of recycling, in which is essentially looks like it's recycling in a garbage dump. Like this is like Sanford and Son to the extreme. We see all sorts of very familiar references to everybody. And even if you didn't grow up in the 70s or you're not from that era, you're going to recognize a lot of stuff in this series. It doesn't feel like things are run down, but it doesn't feel like you can't recognize what you're looking at, which I thought was very interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's so strange, seeing the. I'm always reminded of Superman the movie, which I know is supposed to be Metropolis, but it's New York. And when you see that view, and you've got Brooklyn Bridge and the Twin Towers in the background and all that kind of thing across the water there, it's just, it's so epic. It's epic. This show is epic. It's epic. It delivers everything that many people claim that they want from today's entertainment, and yet the show is getting no coverage on any channels that I've seen
Yeah.
so far. I haven't seen many reviews of it going up online. I mean, guys, this is what we want.
Yeah, and you
This
and
is a
I are gonna
high
cover this.
high budget show, right? It's a high budget show.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not high. It's not like, multi-million dollar show like, I don't know, Game of Thrones or whatever it is. But there's been money and time spent on this. The script is really, really, really good. The performances are top notch. The main characters are brilliant. The bad guys awesome. The B cast, all these guys here, they're it's awesome. This is just everything we want. Everything we want wrapped up. Not everything we want all of the time, but things that have been demanded and complained about that we don't get enough of, and all of that stuff. And yet here we are, a sumptuous mini series that delivers everything that is claimed to be wanted. We need to be bigging up this show. This show needs to be getting more eyes on it, because this is what we want. This is what I want.
Absolutely, Russ, and I think you and I are going to cover this show a little bit more. And you and I have been talking about possibly doing that, but we definitely have to have something where we just strictly talk about the details of the show in a I don't know, maybe in a week or so, after people really have had a chance to kind of see it more. Another thing that I think is interesting, and I had asked you about this because I know that the James Bond films and the books, uh, were maybe, I'm not going to say at its peak, but maybe past its peak or right at the peak during the 1970s. Am I wrong, Russ?
The books are written in the 50s and then in the 60s, which is quite strange because those movies, like Dr. No and all those kinds of things, I think that was 65 or 66. They were kind of contemporary movies at the time, like they were just modern thrillers, a bit like, I'm trying to think of a modern thriller now off the top of my head, and I can't think of one. I don't know, Jason Bourne or something like that. It's not, James Bond wasn't set in some sort of fantastic universe at a fantastic time. It was literally happening in at
And
that at that
into a
time.
modern
Yeah,
time, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was modern. It was a modern movie in the 60s.
And so I have to wonder, like he almost even comes across as like a character like the Saint, or one of those kind of very polished, it's 1970s, it's not 1960s now, but it's 1970s. And
Mm,
he comes off across as this very, very polished, character maybe from that era. And he kind of exudes those vibes to me. And I wonder if that's another thing about him, was that part of his motivation. He's a sleuth, but maybe a very slick one, and a very,
mhm.
well mannered, you would never suspect him. Why would you suspect such a well dressed man to be a thief or something like that? And the entire facade, although it is inherently himself, there still is something else about him that maybe he can fool you. Like he's like Michael Caine in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, where he can kind of smile while he's picking your pocket, that sort of
Mhm.
thing. But he does feel like one of those characters from one of those shows, those television shows, where they had a little bit of espionage, a little bit of burglary, just a little bit of everything in it. And I think that that also makes him very intriguing. When it starts off, of course, he's someone kind of approaches him about a job, if you will. I don't want to get too spoilery about it, but
Mhm.
I think that approach, or at least his approach to it, was quite you know I guess that era of espionage and intrigue and stuff, and I like that they made him that way in that regard, because he is such an interesting character. Seems to take everything in stride. Russ, if this were me, I would just be like so frightened all the time and freaked out. But he just takes it in stride, Russ.
Mhm.
It's like he's so smooth and just, I mean, gosh, I can't get over how well he portrays this character. And of course, I'm just kind of flipping through some of the other images of him. Here he is there, they've obviously got him, they're holding him, but even when he's being held captive, Russ,
Mhm.
he still keeps his demeanor. He doesn't break the code. He doesn't break that way about him. It's spectacular. Most people would be like, this isn't cool, man. What are you doing? He's just not like that. What do you think about that part of this character and his kind of, he just goes with this. He just goes with what's happening.
Well, I think it's lessons may well have been learned from certain other prequels or sequels in the case of Star Wars, where people characters do change, but ultimately they're the same person that they've always been. And oh, hey, Wendy, hello again. That's so good. I can't believe you're actually watching this. Yeah, I'll
And
talk.
let us know your
I,
opinion if you've seen it as well,
yeah,
Wendy. Guys. Wendy, put your opinions in the chat. We're pulling up people's opinions and comments that they're making, which contribute to the show. So just let us know what you think. Please continue, Russ.
I lost my train of thought. What was I
We were
saying?
talking about his demeanor and how
Oh, his
he,
demeanor. Yes, yes. So, what's my point? My point is Winston's pretty unflappable. Ian McShane is a pretty unflappable guy. Like whatever's going on around him in the Continental, even when it's getting attacked. I think it's in the second one where the guys with the armored suits and all that sort of thing attack. Winston is just unflappable. And as a younger man, he's unflappable. They didn't go down the route of portraying him like his brother, as like a hothead that, that does go off and does go off mission and does go off piece. Like Winston just doesn't do that. And he clearly lives his life by his own code, and one of his codes, he lives his life by his own code, certainly, but also his demeanor and his nature is like he takes it in stride. He is calm, he is collected, he is a planner, and this shit. Yeah, he's obviously, there are certain scenes where he's obviously frightened, which I really loved about this show. It's not realistic in any way, shape, or form, but there is realism in there. Like when someone's got a gun, stuck in his face, like he's not giving it large and not coming out with pithy one-liners. And it's the same with the Lou character. She's this, Pam Grier, high kicking karate Afro babe, and all that kind of thing. And she's fighting a guy, and she gets shit kicked out of her, and she kicks the shit out of somebody else. Like she's not an indestructible girl boss, and they just knew what they were doing. And those two guys, the twins, they were brilliant. And they didn't have a single line of dialogue.
they didn't need it. I mean, it was
No,
I mean, I think that yeah, a well-written script doesn't necessarily mean that you have any lines. It doesn't have to be that way, and your actions can speak so loud, and theirs really do. I mean, they just really perform so well in this, and they're terrifying. It's terrifying
well, they
to
were. And
see.
then when they find out what the girl can actually do right at the end, which I'm not going to spoil, but when you see it, it's just something that in that confrontation, something sort of starts attracting your eye much earlier than when the things, when you realize that the extent of what she's capable of. And there's ticks that it's because this show is a master of setup and payoff. There's so many setups and so many payoffs in this show, and that's one of them. Yeah, God, well done, John Wick, guys. Really, 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 really well done. It was so entertaining.
And
And yes, sorry.
Wex no, it's okay. Wex Luther says, "Oh my god, I saw the Maggie Thatcher movie and they were bringing trash downtown. Always wondered if it actually happened, trying to
Yes.
bring back the plague." And some of you guys are talking about Jimmy Carter, the 70s. And of course, he was a president. Irene says she remembers him. And certainly, yeah, I don't know how. Oh, he's 99 years old. Yeah, he might be in hospice somewhere. God bless that man for just he also did Habitat for Humanity, I think, where he wanted to build up homes for people and really help people out. There's the old Yorkshire geek is here, Russ.
Oh, hey, man. Yeah. I'll
And
do, as they would say, I'll do, as they would say in Yorkshire.
and the old Yorkshire geek, we're not doing spoilers today, but says I bet Russ screamed at the telly at the educator's fate. So we're
Do you
not
know
going to
what?
talk about
Do you
what it
know
was.
what, Yorkshire? Do you know what I didn't, man? Like, because I'm a huge fan of Katie. I mean, she's brilliant. But I just, I was like that. I just, what? What? Her? That was mental. And the way that they set it up with that step, that all important step that was made, I was just like, oh, guys, you give me more of this. Awesome, please. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it.
Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington says that the 1955 flashbacks added depth to the show.
Yeah, that was awesome, and things that they put in there that were completely pointless and just didn't have anything to do with the script or the story, pushing the story forward. But just little things like that guy with PTSD, just walking down the street screaming, "I was in the war! I was in the war! Get away from me! I was in the war!" Just stuff like that added so much texture and I would say color, but all the 50 things were shot in black and white. But still, it. oh, well done, writers. Well done. This is
And
good writing. This is really good writing.
we also have Rogue Thinker with us today. Hi, Rogue Thinker, who
Hey,
says
Rogue.
the 70s weren't that great as far as I remember. Ouch. Ouch. Yeah. Um, and Rogue Thinker says, well, are we really interested in a spin-off prequel to John Wick? Well, isn't this is what this
Well,
is, right?
100%, man. Like
Yeah.
we really are. I mean, if you haven't seen it, and you've seen, I don't know, because we were complaining because I think you just got rid of it a while ago. I was complaining earlier on, nobody's covering this. This is the show that all of these channels claim that they want. You know, it's not woke. It's got a straight white lead and all of that stuff. There isn't any feminine girl power message. None of that. It's just, this is just like awesome on top of awesome, but nobody wants to talk about it.
It
So
is.
it's a show that gives you everything you want. Why aren't we bigging it up? Why isn't it on these channels with millions and millions of subscribers? Why? It's awesome. It's everything that we want in a show. I love it. I absolutely love it. So if you've seen things slagging it off, Rogue, and saying, "Oh, it's not all that, and it's this," I guarantee I will pay you money if you come away and tell me this show is not what you want, because I think it is.
I agree, and that's why, Russ, we need to cover it more, or at least I'm going to try and cover it. We're going to do our best to cover it, and maybe
Mm,
even do a watch party for the 3 parts, because you know what we got for these 3 parts, Russ. And initially, when I first watched the first episode, I was very upset because I realized that there was only 2 more episodes left.
mm.
And I thought to myself, oh man, but after what we got in these 3 episodes, it's just been so phenomenal. And I want to thank, aw, Irene, thank you so much. That is so generous of you. I want to thank Irene for the $5 super chat and says it's for mommy.
Oh,
Mommy's going
nice one,
to love
Irene.
this, Irene. She's going to love this. And then she's going to insist that she be here for every stream. And then she's going to insist that, you know, people send her super chats, Irene. Thank you so much, Irene. Mummy is going to get a treat and she's going to love it. And she's pretending like she's sleeping now, but she can hear this. So
Hmm.
she's literally, I'm looking at her, but I notice her breathing has changed. You know, like
She's gonna get a milkshake.
she's going to get something delicious. So she's
Hmm.
very happy about that. Thank you so much, Irene. That's so kind of you. When I start gaming again, Mommy will be here during the gaming streams. So she will be present for that as well. You're going to hear her talking about it. Why can't she watch the gaming? It's going to be fun. But Irene, thank you so much. It's so kind and so generous for thinking of Mummy. That is so sweet. And you are the best, Irene. Thank you for that. Yeah, you know, I think it's really interesting, Russ, talking about this, and certainly looking at these different things. Yorkshire Geek says Dr. No was 1952, 62, so it's quite some time. But what I'm really trying to say is that I think that his early, you know, let's say Winston in this early time period as a young man was inspired by, you know, the sleek look of those 1960s.
Well,
Um,
he's literally a dashing rogue, isn't he?
yes,
He's
yes,
like the, he's like, you mentioned Simon Templar, the dashing rogue, the gentleman thief. You know, all of that. He's literally cut from that cloth.
he really is. And he's honestly, now I know this sounds crazy, but I can't take my eyes off of him. I think he's really, he knows he's attractive. And I think that, you know, he's playing that up too, you know, the attractiveness and, you know, and it's almost like he's, and I know he's a thief, but it's almost like he's a diamond in his pile of garbage, if you will, you know. When I say pile of garbage, I just mean all sort of like the broken down city and, you know, people
Mhm.
deep down and, you know, despite everything, you know, he's like, I'm going to look my best and I'm going to walk in here looking like $1 million. And, you know, even if the world's going to end tomorrow, I'm going to look like, you know, everything is fine today. And I think that that's a very interesting approach to life. He's the glass half full kind of guy. You know, it's like, okay, you know, the whole city's burned down, but doesn't my watch look great? You know, like
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, exactly, exactly. But you know, lest we not forget the female policewoman. Was it AJ or TJ? Oh, look, this is so annoying. The cop, the lady cop, AJ or
yes,
TJ?
yes, I know who you're talking about. Let me just get to her
No,
picture. She's in the begin. This is it. It's this woman.
yes.
Yes, she's phenomenal
Doesn't
too.
it say who she is if you scroll down a bit? What her character name is?
It doesn't.
Oh,
Um,
because when you clicked on it, I thought I saw a name pop up. Anyway, this character,
Maybe it did. Maybe
I
it
think
did.
it's AJ. Um,
Let's see if we can get her name. Well, we'll just go here.
there you go,
KD.
KD. There you go, KD. So that whole that whole subplot about what happened back in the day and how it played into the present day, and nobody saw that coming. I don't care what, if you saw that coming, you're either a genius or a liar. Because I was like, oh my god, wow, again with the way the setups and the payoffs, this whole show is full of them, and KD is a huge part of that, and everything in the context of the reveal, all of the decisions, everything she's done, it all makes sense. This is some good stuff, people.
Yeah, and Rogue Thinker goes on to say, your contemporary stories are often better. I think they're easier to do and have fewer traps. Nostalgia and screwed perspective can happen in period pieces. And Bonzo Kilborn, perhaps one of the most interesting comments today, says, honestly, the show has been out of sight and out of mind, but you guys are talking me into it. Watch it, Bonzo. You will like it. And Rogue Thinker wants to know where the show is. Where is it? It's on
In
Peacock.
Amazon in England.
Okay. It's an Amazon in England. I think it's on Peacock in the States. So you can find it there. Oh, yes. Thank you. Oh, Geek Sure York confirms that. Guys, please do hit the like and subscribe buttons today. Certainly. And Tom Jr. Jackson says that guy that plays Winston really has the voice pattern down. Yeah. Certainly that thought. So yes, anybody who's watching this, if you haven't seen the Continental, we're telling you, if you watch the first episode, it's going to feel like a John Wick movie, but the second episode feels like a second act, a different act, almost like
Mm.
almost like a play, you know. It's like a 3-act play, if you will. And that's what you get in this. It's jam-packed with different things. There's different layers. There's even love in this. You know, I in a different form, if you will. I was not expecting a lot of what I saw in this, Russ. And
Mhm.
I think if you want to be surprised, if you want to see something original, this is it. This is the surprise. This is the original hit. This is the thing that you've never seen before. This is it. This is
It's
the show.
awesome. I'm just looking at the cast there. Jeremy Bobb as Mayhew, right? That guy is a side character. He is a sub character. They fucking nail. He is, and I loved. Oh god, there's one shot. There's one shot in this show that they took directly from the beginning of Kojak. Like it's just the police siren on the dash of the car, and it's just sort of spinning around, and you can see through the windshield, and they're speeding through the New York streets. I was like, oh, I got you. I saw what you did there. That's the beginning of Kojak. I loved it. But that guy, the way that they showed him, and he in the 1970s, he probably thought he was as cool as shit, but he actually just looks like a normal 1970s guy, with the pot belly and the long hair and the big tash and those pants that they kept making him wear with the patterns on them and all that. He just looked like he'd fallen out of Kojak. And this was like, it's awesome. He was awesome. And he gets the shit beaten out of him in that phone booth and all that stuff. And they're hitting each. Oh, it's just so good. It's just so good.
Absolutely, Russ. I couldn't have said it better. Old Yorkshire Geek actually has seen it. Says that love the Continental, also enjoying Gen V. Gen V, of course, is the spinoff of The Boys. So that is also out there right now, guys. I would recommend you check it out if you want more of that incredible going there, outlandish The Boys action. You will find it in Gen V. Of course, it's young adults. These are kids, I think college students, maybe high school age, who are doing it. It's a little bit harder to watch the kids go through all the machinations and the pains of being a Gen V, being a soup, so to speak. But if you can muster it, if you can handle it, you will enjoy Gen V as well, I think. Um, Old Yorkshire Geek also says the Winston actor did have great scene presence. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
he
my.
did. They all did. I'm looking at the cast here. Hubert Pontjour as Miles, who sounds nothing
Yes.
like a French guy in the show, by the way. Every
Yes.
single character has an arc. Every single character has an arc, even the sub characters, even Yen down there.
There was
And
this. one I'm sorry, Russ. There's this one line that Miles said where he had said that he had to wait. I hope I'm saying talking about the right character. Am I talking about the right character? Where he talked about why he couldn't he something about killing and the country that he's from. Um Killing, is almost like doesn't mean anything. But he said something about it, at least where he is now, killing means something, like almost as if like life didn't mean anything, or your life had no value from the country that he came from. And I thought that was such a poignant way to describe, somebody who comes from a country that's war torn, or from
Hmm.
a country that, where there's immense, tremendous amounts of genocide,
Hmm.
or countries where people are, pretty much in bondage or enslaved. I thought
Hmm.
that was such a profound way to describe what it really meant, as if, your life was meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. It just was absolutely profound way to describe something for somebody who was a victim of it, or might have seen close friends and family become victims of this. And, I thought that was an
Yeah, sorry,
incredibly.
RM, you got something going on with your mic there.
Oh, I do. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
we can hear. I don't know if you're
Okay.
moving the phone around or whatever system you're on.
Is it better now?
It is now. It's not happening now. I just wanted
Okay.
to make you aware that whatever was going on down there was we
Sorry
could
about
hear it.
that. StreamYard has not been my friend this
Mm.
week. Um, but I just thought it was such a profound way to describe it, rather than saying, "Well, they're killing everybody," and we had to get out of there. Like it was just truly a very truthful way to describe the horrors of what they were experiencing. And
Mhm.
I thought that's very original. I don't really hear anybody say anything like that. It was just amazing. So that is something very interesting about that. Rogue Thinker says, I'm just saying that in general, spin-offs are not good, and I personally am not overexcited by prequels. I think that's part of why there isn't much interest. I do hope it's great. Okay, fair
It
enough.
really is, man. And here's the thing: we've spoken about this before, and I've heard other people talk about it. You can, like I think they were talking about it on one of the drinkers podcasts, and they made a sort of good point that they were talking about James Bond, and the thought is it's funny because somebody was saying up above there like how they prefer like contemporary things, but the angle that the drinker and co were taking was that the James Bond might go back to the 50s, and they kind of like that idea because there isn't so much reliance, like on your super duper pocket computer that you can do everything with, and and 3D and all that stuff. So there is kind of like that they were quite into that. But what's my point? My point is that even though we know what happens in Doctor No, or The Spy Who Loved Me, or Goldfinger, or whatever, there's still a way of constructing a story that's hella tense and has all of the drama in there, even if you know that the main character has to survive because it is a prequel. And the Continental Rogue is an absolute case in point that you know that Charon and Winston will survive because they're both older men in John Wick and they have a history, so we know that they're going to survive. You don't know about anybody else for that matter. You don't know how they're going to get out of these situations that they get themselves in. So it is a masterclass. It is a masterclass of prequel writing in that even though you know that the main guys are going to survive, the two main dudes, everything else around it is so tense. Every single person there, apart from Mel Gibson, you give a shit about. You absolutely care about those characters. And Mel Gibson, um, he's not a caricature of a one note villain. He's just a horrible, evil psychopath that is desperate to maintain his hold on power and will do absolutely anything to anybody that threatens his power. And yeah, all right, he's not a villain with a tragic backstory that makes his actions understandable. This guy is a gangster from the hard post-war streets of New York and takes no prisoners, takes no shit. He has dragged himself up by the bootstraps to literally the highest point of well, not literally the highest point of the city, because that would be the top of the World Trade Center, but one of the highest points in the city where he can look down at everything he has achieved, and he looks down at the world now, looks down at those streets that he's come from. So he's brutal, and he does some brutal slaying in this as well. Like there was one scene, it was awesome. The and of course it's Mel Gibson who can act a little bit, and the palpable. You know, I was talking about Steve Austin, the air of menace. Well, he does it too because he's a big guy. Like I mean, he's not tall, Mel Gibson, but he's a big guy, and his eyes, you know, like Mad Mel. Everybody knows about Mad Mel, and he brings all of that, but he doesn't. You don't know when it's going to explode, and there's this like simmering fury going on with him in this, especially in this one scene. You know the scene that I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, and you are edge of your seat, man. Like this guy's gonna go, and what? Or is he gonna go? Or is he get? Oh, it's so good. See it, guys.
Absolutely, and yes, Bonzo Killboard, Mel Gibson is in it. Yes, it certainly is, an incredible cast. Old Yorkshire Geek says, "Must have been set after '79 because Mel mentioned Zimbabwe. It was Rhodesia before
I
70."
I thought that Yorkshire Geek, and I think that was a fuck up, or just a contemporary tip, because I think if they'd have said Rhodesia, they would have got into trouble for it because of all the connotations with it, which made me think, why didn't he just say South Africa or somewhere else rather than Zimbabwe? Because yeah, it's definitely not 79. It's no way this is 79. This is mid 70s for sure. You keep expecting the baseball furies or whatever to run around the corner. It's
Yeah,
proper. Oh, sorry, old Charles Bronson to sort of like be lurking on the corner, and Travis, like hailing the cab, and it's Travis Bickle. It's literally that era. So I don't think it's late 70s. I really don't.
interesting. Yeah, and I wouldn't have understood Rhodesia or any of that stuff, so it would just go completely over my head. So that's my ignorance there with what's going on in the world. Bonzo says, "I have a strange desire to listen to the Bee Gees now more than a woman." And also, and of course, I can't remember who it was said they were going to go see Roger Waters. There's Welcome to the Machine is
Norwegian Kryptonian.
yes, Welcome to the Machine is in I can't remember the name of this song. I don't know whether that's the actual song, but Pink Floyd is music is in this.
Is in
And
that show.
some of the selections I haven't heard, while obviously, More Than a Woman is an incredibly popular song, some of the selections they've chosen are songs that I haven't heard, and I always, like, pat myself on the back for knowing a lot of '70s music, but there were a few songs that I didn't recognize in this, and I was like, "What? I don't know a song in a movie?" So, I think it was definitely a very specific, collection of songs for a specific reason.
It's interesting that Bonzo says that, because literally I listened to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, which I haven't listened to in years after watching this show. After watching the episode 2, I just thought, yeah, fuck, man, I want to listen to some Bee Gees now, and I absolutely did. And talking of needle drops, what about in the last episode when they were doing Barracuda? Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Oh man, it really was. Thalia Meyer says, just want to hop in and say hello to all. Well, hello. Hope you are well.
Hey, Thalia, sorry, my phone's beeping because I'm getting calls about my stepdad and from his mates and stuff like that. So I have to get off fairly soon, guys. But hello, Thalia. We were only talking about you earlier on because Dino Dinosaur turned up, and our thinks it's Dino and I think it's Dino. And I said to him, like, we need to know how to pronounce this because we did this with you. We had to ask you how we did it, Thalia. So we need to know from Dino Dino as well.
and that old Geekshire, that old Yorkshire Geekshire, that old Yorkshire Geek says the Mayhew character reminded me a bit of Harvey Bullock in Gotham.
Yeah,
Interesting.
totally. I mean, that character, he's in the animated series and everything, isn't he? But yeah, he is that sort of cop, but he knows more. He knows more than this is like so good. And he says to somebody, look, if you cross this line, you don't know what you're getting into. So, but that's never revealed. It's like, oh, how does he know? And how does he know?
And Tom Jr. Jackson says Road to a Million is a James Bond reality competition from Amazon. And the producers of the Bond films, hosted by actor Brian Cox, with a $1.2 million, $1.2 million prize. I have to say it like that as if it was.
$1.2 million. Is it still open? Should I apply as James Bond? What do you reckon? Geriatric James. That'd be fucking awesome. I can do it. I can do it. The oldest Bond ever cast. Except I can't act and I'm not very good looking. But aside from that,
Oh, come on.
and I'm not that tall. But
Oh, come on, come on. Rogue Thinker says, I was going to pass on Continental. I hadn't heard anything good or bad about it, but you convinced me to check it out. Thanks. Wow. My goodness.
Oh, well, Rogue, that's you know why that's why this is called positive fandom. All right, look, I know we have a moan about things. Sometimes we have to moan about things. You know, we've when they serve us up shit, we have to mention it. You know, like Obi-Wan or whatever, or She-Hulk, all those really poor shows. But the point when Aram and I were discussing this, and she came up with the whole idea of this, and I was completely on board with it. Was like, you know, there like I was moaning earlier on, like nobody's bigging this up. This is what this channel is for, is to find stuff that we love. Like I was ranting about the Expendables 4 last week. It's not the greatest movie in the world. Of course it isn't. It's full of plot holes, it's ridiculous, and the performances and that's not what I'm going to the cinema. I'm not looking for a Stanislavskian, you know, treatise and, you know, on the depths of the human soul. No, I'm going to watch Megan Fox in a tank top and Jason Statham in a bare chested throwing knives at people and blowing them up with all sorts of interesting ways. That's what I wanted, and it delivered. And this show, however, is brilliantly written, brilliantly acted, brilliantly shot, painstakingly recreated from the 1970s. It ticks. If you listen to The Drinker and Gary Nerdrotic and Disparu and all of those guys that claim that, you know, entertainment shit, it doesn't give us anything that we want, fucking hell, guys, here you go. Watch this and wax lyrical, because it delivers everything that we want from our entertainment.
Absolutely. And that old Yorkshire geek says Commodore Pet was 77. LOL. I don't think the exact date is important as long as it had that 70s feel to it, and it certainly did.
It does. Even I've said Yorkshire before, and I've said, I don't know if you heard me last week, I was banging on about this, but even the soundtrack, because they use a lot. The soundtrack is mostly contemporary music, but they do have like musical cues in it, right? But they're all like doom, 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 you know, it's all this kind of like Dirty Harry shit that they've got playing, wah, wah, and all this stuff. It's so good.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun, everybody. And you like the Geekshire. I'm so glad, old Yorkshire geek. So good to have you here. And Irene is saying you should go for it. I think it would be very interesting. And Bonzo Kilborn for a $5 super chat, small token of thanks. Make mom's next pastry a double. Oh, she can hear that right now.
Oh
She's
my
sitting
god.
there.
Irene,
Oh,
do I have a dad bod? What the hell's going on? I'm working really hard not to have a dad bod here. I'll have you know.
my mother is smiling right now. Bonzo, you made mommy smile. She's got a big smile on her face. Um, this is priceless. Darth Plato for the $2 super chat says gaming change. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bonzo and Darth Plato, for the generous super chats. Thank you for everything, guys, for the support, and love hearing your comments and different things that are on your mind as well. So certainly do appreciate it. Certainly appreciate everybody. And if you haven't watched The Continental, please do watch it. It is worth a watch. It's maybe one of the best things that's come out this year, honestly.
Do you know what I
Um,
didn't watch? And I have to admit this, and as I think we have to have to draw the show to a close pretty soon. But I haven't actually seen the end of Ahsoka. Sorry.
you know what?
Mhm. Who cares, right?
I would say that if you didn't see it, you weren't missing very much.
Actually ended up watching the Drinkers review of it, so I know what happened in it, and I do want to watch it for myself to draw my own conclusions. Um, but what can I say, having not watched the show? Not a lot, and you know, Mikey would have my balls if I started commentating on a show that I haven't seen. But from what I've heard of it, um, it's pretty much what I expected. I was talking to MJ about this actually before, and she's saying like, you know, like lots of people in their 20s seem to love this show, and it's like seemingly like the best Star Wars show ever. Because you know we know that Andor wasn't as popular as certain others, and I said to MJ, and I do believe this. You know, with things like Obi-Wan, where they seem to go out of their way in the writers' room to who can come up with the shittiest, most ridiculous idea. Well, how about when they escape we put the girl in the box. No, 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 we're not going to do. I've got an idea. Why don't we put her under the coat? Says Russ. Oh, Russ has come up with the shittiest idea. We'll use Russ. It's offensively bad. Right? That show was offensively bad. Ahsoka's not offensively bad. It's just a bit poorly thought out in places and tries to set up certain things. And as I said before on this, I just feel that it feels like Dave Filoni is sort of almost hamstrung by the machine of Disney that's around him, and I'm sure that he doesn't want to make half of these. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but it seems like there's two sides to Ahsoka. There's one show that in there that could be like really really awesome, and then there's the show that we actually got that's a bit shit, but it's not offensively bad. It's trying to be good, and that's why Ahsoka gets a little bit of a pass from me.
Well, I'm gonna actually say that I don't really have an opinion, too strong of an opinion on Ahsoka either way, because I feel that it's just, a little empty, like it's missing a lot. And I've said that I would have watched the Ahsoka series if it just had Rosario Dawson and she talked about the Force for 8 episodes.
Yeah,
I watched it. So, I didn't need anybody else to be in it. Maybe she could have been with Huang, and maybe oh my goodness gracious, you guys are so generous today. Maybe she could have been with Huang, and maybe she could have been with Anakin Skywalker, and they talk about the Force and just enlighten us about the history of whatever they want to talk about. And I would have watched that. And I
mm.
wouldn't have cared whether we went to see Thrawn or whether we saw Ezra or Sabine was in it. Like none of that would have mattered. But one thing we did get that I wasn't expecting to be so, um, I guess, mystified by was Balin Skull, this character played by Ray Stevenson, the late and great Ray Stevenson, and he just really blew me away with this character. Here he is standing in front of one of the ending parts where he stands in front of I guess it's the father, a very important character in the Clone Wars. So,
It's kind of
you know,
cool that there's a face on the mountain behind him. I didn't, that's kind of cool.
it was great, and I also wanna thank you so much, Old Yorkshire Geek says, "Thanks for the fun stream. Gotta run. Have a great Sunday." Well, have a great Sunday to you as well. We're gonna be wrapping up this stream in a few minutes.
Hmm.
So, I did wanna mention that, and certainly, you know, Ray Stevenson was the standout character in this. In fact, he could have had his own series. We all know this now from his presence and his ability to command as an actor. He could have, this could have actually been his show, and Ahsoka
I,
could
w-
have had something separate.
I wonder if they'll replace him with Vincent Regan. Vincent Regan seems to be like the natural replacement for him. I don't know, but I don't know how big Vincent Regan is. I know he got ripped to hell in 300, but just of all the actors, all the British actors I can think of doing it, I can see Vincent Regan doing this, and I can see Vincent Regan doing a really, really, really good job as well.
Well, that's great to know. There's been a lot of speculation about who would replace him, and I just want to thank everybody. Since it is close to the time you and I said we were going to be finishing, I
Hmm.
just want to thank Old Yorkshire Geek again for that super chat. Goodbye, Grogu. Tell your brother Grogu I said hi. And I also want to thank again Irene for the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Irene. Mummy's gonna love this.
Irene is, having chatted back and forth with Irene, she's an absolute sweetheart, and
She
we are very lucky to have her as part of this stream and a part of this community. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. And Irene, you're always there for me. Thank you, Irene, for supporting me. And I hope the kitties are having a good day today, Irene. I'd like to hear about the kitties. Hope everybody is well there at your house today. Also, want to thank Bonzo Kilborn again. Mummy's going to enjoy her pastry. She's smiling and she's really, really excited. She's awake now because she can hear the change jingling in the purse, guys. Mummy change. She can hear it. She knows she has coins. It's what she calls her money. Coins. Talking about old school, right? Um,
Hmm.
that's what my mother calls her money. Do we have any coins? Darth Plato for the $2 super chat. Darth Plato, thank you so much. Says gaming change. Yes. Darth Plato, such a pleasure. As you guys know, Darth Plato and I do watch historical movies together. We won't be watching any on Thursday because I'm going to be at New York Comic Con, guys. But Darth Plato and I will return after that a week to watch another historical movie, Bon Voyage, the 2003 foreign film, Bon Voyage. So please come back for that. And thanks again, Yorkshire Geek, for the £5 super chat, guys. £5. It's more than $5, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so appreciate it, old Yorkshire Geek. And so appreciate everybody here. I also want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson, moderator, collaborator, and friend, who is always here as well. Certainly appreciate it. Yes. Uh, Tom Jr. Jackson. Also check out his YouTube channel too. Oh, Irene. Aw. Thank you, Irene. Thank you so much for the support as well. Yes, bon voyage. There, are you happy now? Bon voyage. If that's the way you want me to say it, Dark Plato. Thanks everybody for watching. Russ, where can people find you?
Usually here, or you can contact me via my website, which is russellwhitfield.com, at contact@russellwhitfield.com. But more importantly, where can people find you, RM?
Well, guys, you can always find me here on Positive Fandom, where I do all the Parley on the fandom on the Sunday Brunch Show every Sunday at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. But you can also find me on the Burnettwork, where I do Ladies of the PGS with Lorena. You can also find me on Midnight Musings. We didn't do one this week, but we'll probably do one next week. I also do a movie series with Darth Plato on my channel. I've got the SEAL Team final season coming up for coverage. I've got The Crown, which we're going to be doing watch parties for. Napoleon is coming up. There's so much fantastic things, as well as my part 2 Friedkin tribute from TCM, where we're going to be covering The Exorcist, the original, not the remake, guys. So just want to thank everybody for your generosity today. It's been so great. I hope you had a great Sunday brunch today, guys. Go see The Continental. It's a fantastic film. Yes, live long and prosper, everybody. Cheers. Thank you so much, everybody. And guys, remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind.
Thanks so much, everyone, and thanks, Wendy, for popping by. I can't believe it. It's such a massive thrill. I'll see you all next week. Cheers, cheers. Bye bye.